Good afternoon, my name is Deborah. I work in the education department here at the Akron Zoo. And when people find out that I work at the zoo, of course everyone asks, do you work with lions and tigers and bears? Oh my, right? I had to get it in there. I don't. In fact, I have spent my entire zoo career working with ambassador animals. And ambassador animals are generally smaller. They are safe animals who are very conditioned to being around people because it is their job at the zoo to actually come out with education staff. We do outreach programs at schools and libraries and churches, but the ambassador animals also help to educate people when they come here to the zoo. And one of the most common questions that we get when we're presenting our ambassador animals is, where did that animal come from? And so that is what we are going to talk about today. We are going to meet a few of our amazing ambassador animals and learn about their stories and how they came to live here at the Akron Zoo. All right, so the first animal that we are meeting today is Winter, and Winter is a ringneck dove. Now, we of course have ringneck doves all over here in Ohio, though they are not actually native here to North America. Technically, ringneck doves are native to southern and eastern parts of Africa, but they were domesticated quite a long time ago, and now you find them throughout the world. Now, Winter also doesn't look like a typical ringneck dove because she is an albino, which means she's lacking all of the normal pigmentation that these birds would have, which is why she is white and has red feet and red eyes. Now, Winter was actually hatched right here at Akron Zoo. She is about 8 years old, and she has a really interesting story as to how she became an ambassador animal. She actually was born in our aviary. Now, not the Grizzly Ridge aviary that probably most of you are familiar with, but the old aviary that we used to have here at the zoo that was at the top entrance to Asian Trail. And the reason why we had ringneck doves in that aviary is because they were supposed to be sort of surrogate incubating parents for pink pigeons that we had in the aviary as well. Now, pink pigeons are a critically endangered species of bird, and for some reason in human care, they don't do a very good job of sitting on their eggs. However, ringneck doves will sit on a rock. They will literally sit on anything. And so these birds were brought in to hopefully be incubators for any pink pigeon eggs that the zoo might have. Well, one of the ringneck dove eggs that ended up hatching happened to be Winter. And Winter's parents were not doing a good job of taking care of her. Winter was also born albino, which is a little interesting. Albino animals do tend to have some neurological sensitivities and sensitive eyesight, and because her parents were not taking care of her, she ended up being hand-raised by our veterinarian. And so after Winter was big enough to be flighted and potentially go back out into that aviary, she was so used to being around people, and with her albino coloration, they worried a little bit about her being outside. And so it was decided that the best fit for Winter would be to come and join our ambassador group here at the zoo. And that's exactly what we did. And she is definitely a fan favorite. She's a very gentle bird, very docile, very quiet for the most part. And so she is a big hit with little kids. They can get right up close to her and have a really amazing experience meeting a bird that they could actually see in their very own backyards. So that is Winter, the ringneck dove. So the next animal that we are meeting is Thistle, and though Thistle may look a little bit like a hedgehog, that is often what people guess she is not a hedgehog. Believe it or not, she's not even related to a hedgehog. In fact, you will probably be very surprised when I tell you that there is a distant ancestor of this animal that actually shows she's more related to an elephant or a manatee than she is to the hedgehog that she looks so much alike. This is Thistle. She is a lesser Madagascar hedgehog tenrec. And tenrecs are these little spiny animals. They are native only to the island of Madagascar, and there's over 25 different kinds of them there. And they all look a little bit different, sort of depending on what habitat they utilize within the island. Now, as far as Thistle's story and how she came to live at Akron Zoo and become one of our ambassador animals, is we actually acquired her from another zoo. So sometimes we get animals because they're born right here at Akron, and oftentimes we get animals that are born at other AZA accredited zoos, and that was the case with Thistle. We actually worked with the Species Survival Program for the lesser tenrec, and Species Survival Program, or SSP, that is a really interesting program that a lot of AZA zoos participate in for various species, and you have either a single person or a committee of people that manage that population of species within AZA accredited zoos and decide who would be a good pairing with someone, and they send animals here and send animals there. And Thistle was actually an animal that was not actively part of the breeding program, and so it was determined that she'd be a good candidate to come and be an ambassador animal. So we actually acquired her from the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. She is about 5 years old, and she's a little on the slow side now. She's nocturnal, so this is kind of like the middle of the night for her. She's slowly starting to wake up here. But she's also on the slower side right now because Thistle is in the process of coming out of torpor. Now this is a really interesting process that Tenrecs will do. They can do it seasonally when you have a few colder months in Madagascar. They can go into sort of a mini hibernation. It's not a true hibernation, but they can be very inactive. Their metabolism is very slow. They can lower their body temperature to allow themselves to just be inactive when there aren't a lot of resources available. We'll just, you want to put the good end facing forward. There we go. But they can also even go into that torpor on a really hot day that they don't want to be active, a really cold day that they don't want to be active. And so here at Akron Zoo, Thistle generally goes into torpor during our fall and winter season, and she is starting to come out of that now. We're seeing her be more active, eat more of her diet, and so she'll be zooming around here come this summer when everybody is ready to come back and see us at Akron Zoo. All right, now while we love being able to acquire ambassador animals from our own zoo or from other AZA zoos, it is also a really amazing experience to be able to help a wild animal that needs a second chance. And that was the case with Summer the groundhog here. Here you go, you got more yummies. I know, you wanna smell my hands? They smell very interesting from the last animal that I was just handling. Here, come here, Summer. So Summer is a groundhog. She is about 2 years old, and Summer was an animal who was living out in the native habitat right here in Ohio. She was a little tiny baby groundhog, should have still been down in the burrow with her siblings, with her mother taking care of her, but something happened. We don't know for sure what, whether mom was hit by a car or what exactly happened, but little baby Summer, when she was still very tiny, somehow managed to make her way out of the burrow, and unfortunately the very first thing that found her was a cat, someone's pet cat. And we often think about our kitties as being our little pets, our sweet pets, but cats who are outside are very much hunters, and they actually can do a lot of damage to wild bird populations and even to a baby groundhog. So this cat had baby Summer and decided, like many pet cats do, when they catch a prize, is they bring it home to show their owners. And so Summer was brought back home, but when the cat approached the house, the family's dog decided that they wanted to get in on the action too. And at this point then, the owner heard the commotion going on between her dog and her cat. She came out, she realized that there was a baby groundhog in the middle, and the owner fortunately intervened. Now, Summer was in pretty good shape, but she did have some scratches and things that needed attention, and she obviously still needed to be raised. She was still very small. So this person took Summer to a local wildlife rehabilitation center, and Summer was all fixed up there. She was taken care of by the staff, and when it was time for her to go out and be in that native habitat again, they took her out into what they thought was an appropriate space and let her go. And that very same day, there was a walker on the hiking path at the park that this particular rehab center is near, and they called the rehab center saying that there was a little groundhog following them on the path that really seemed to want to be picked up. And so the rehab staff went out, and it was in fact Summer. So that was sort of the test that she had failed. She was too used to being around humans and was not going to go and be a groundhog living out in the wild in Ohio. So she needed a second chance. She needed a home, and at Akron Zoo we were very happy to give her a home. So she is about 2 years old now. And Summer is actually one of the animals that is in the show that we do here at the zoo during the summer. And she is a really fun animal to work with. She is very smart. And even though she has been raised by people and been around people for basically her entire life, I can do a little tactile with her. She is still very much has that wild groundhog in her. So she's by no means tame or domestic. She is trained, she is desensitized. And because she has the ability to be around humans and still be a wild animal, she makes a fantastic ambassador animal for us here at the zoo. Don't you, Summer? And Summer is enjoying a very full bowl of some of her favorite treats, banana and peanuts included. So come see Summer this summer at the Akron Zoo. So the last animal that we are meeting today is Styx, and she is a lizard called a Eurymastix, and these are lizards that are found in northern Africa and then up into parts of the Middle East as well. Now Styx is a great example of an animal that the zoo gave a second chance or second home to after we adopted her from a pet rescue. She was actually adopted from a reptile rescue in Cincinnati, and Styx has probably one of the saddest stories, I think, before she came to live here at Akron Zoo. She was actually found in the basement of an abandoned house. The people who had lived there had moved on, and they had simply left her behind. And she did not have any food or water. She was left without heat, and she was really in pretty sad shape. Now, fortunately, the rescue intervened, and they took her in, nursed her back to health, but then they needed to find a home for her as well. And so she got to come live here at the Akron Zoo. We have had her at the zoo now for about 7 years. We don't know for sure how old she is. The rescue thought that she was probably on the younger side because she was very little, but that could also have been to the pretty poor care that she likely received when she was a pet. So we don't know for sure exactly of her age, maybe somewhere between 10 years old, 15 years old, but these lizards actually can live upwards of 30 years, so they have a very long lifespan. And Styx is one of my favorite animals to take out when I am talking to boys and girls, because Styx is a wiggle worm. And oftentimes the children that I am talking to are also wiggle worms. And so as she is wiggling all around in my hands, I like to compare and say she's just like you. She can't sit still even just for a second. So this little worm that I have right here is called a wax worm, and it happens to be Styx's favorite treat. Although now she says, "What's that camera over there? Come here." Now, for those of you that have been able to see Styx a little more up close, you might wonder, why does her mouth look red? Well, Styx, her lower jaw is actually not shaped quite right, and likely this is also due to poor care, poor husbandry that she would have received as a pet. And it's kind of like, you know, when you have a canker sore or you've bitten your tongue and it swells, and then you just keep biting it over and over and over until it finally heals. Styx goes through cycles like this. And so what we do is we monitor her mouth every day, and we actually came up with a numbered picture chart. And as long as Styx stays at a 2 or a 1, she's good. But if she spends more than 2 days at a 3, then we call our vet staff in. And they can do a couple of different things for her. They can give her an anti-inflammatory. They can even do a laser therapy treatment as well, which actually has been very helpful in the past. And so I think that Styx is kind of like a little Cinderella story from her very humble beginnings, and then living the lap of luxury here at Akron Zoo and being a fantastic ambassador animal. All right, so I hope you enjoyed meeting some of our ambassador animals today that all come from different walks of life. And that is what I love most about working with ambassador animals, is every single one of the animals that we take care of here have this story that, you know, I get to tell for them. They can't tell the story for themselves. And that's a really rewarding thing to be able to do. So I love taking care of our ambassador animals. I love sharing them with other people. And we can't wait to see everybody this summer at the Akron Zoo. And the ambassador animals will be here waiting for you. Thanks so much.